please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us never forget the troops who are in harm's way.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Before we begin our meeting, I wish to point out the exits located in the front of the rear of the room. In the event of an emergency, I ask you to orderly proceed to the nearest exit. The Cicero Town Board acknowledges the importance of full public participation in all public hearings, and therefore urges all who wish to address those in attendance to utilize the microphones located in the front of the room. I'll make a motion all actions taken tonight are type 2 or unlisted actions and have a negative impact on the environment unless otherwise determined.
Second.
Ms. Terwacki?
Yes.
Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
Mr. Corral?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes. We need approval of Town Board meeting minutes of April 14, 2008.
I have a couple amendments that I'd like to bring up. The first one is any of the public hearings that were mentioned, the stop signs on Dale Park and Bridgeport, Nate's Lane and South Bay Road, are May 12th Town Board meeting. And the speed study for South Bay Road and Whiting Road is still on May 12th. I just wanted to make mention of that. Also, I wanted to reflect the minutes to have when they spoke regarding the hearing on the fencing. It is not Paula Perigo. The correction is made to reflect Susan. And I would also like to have included in the minutes a remark that Charlotte had made when the motion was asked. I'm going to include in there Charlotte's statement stating, received many letters that supported the Paragons and also indicated that people also had problems with the Thompsons. That is also duly noted and marked in the minutes. I also received, I didn't personally receive it, it came through the supervisor's office, a letter from Mrs. Paragon. Perigo, Susan Perigo, I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing that incorrect. That she would like a letter that was not given to me to insert into the minutes at the meeting of April 14th. And at this time, I would just like to get the town board's decision if that should be entered in at this time. I don't. You can do it, at this meeting here, or put it in the amendment, whatever way they feel comfortable in doing. So I would like the feedback of the board at this time, please.
Mrs. Perigo sent me a signed copy of her request, as well as a signed copy of her letter, which, as I understand, was one of the reasons for not including this because it wasn't signed. So I'm passing that down to you. One of the ways that we as a town board avoid the implication of using our power to pass legislation in favor of select individuals is to let all parties have their right to be heard. One of the ways to appear to be selective in our legislation is to deny one of these parties. Mrs. Perigo asked that her letter be to the town board appear as written. Mr. Thompson's letter that he gave to the board in March was printed verbatim, and I have the letter from Mrs. Perigo signed, requesting that her letter also be included in the minutes.
Wasn't the letter that the Thompsons gave us given to us at the meeting?
Yes.
I believe it was.
It was at the prior meeting. Their verbatim letter was at the March meeting.
Yeah,
Mrs. Perigo wasn't here at that time. This letter is the letter that Mrs. Perigo read from when she spoke before the board.
Then why didn't you give it to us at the time of the public hearing and enter it into the record then?
I think you can agree that this was an extremely emotional situation, and I'm sure she wanted to sit down, having vented some anger and experiencing embarrassment.
We could just, why don't we just take it and then we can approve the minutes as with the modifications Tracy wanted, and then we can adopt this letter into the minutes for today.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I mean, because I don't know, we can't go back in time.
That's correct.
Well, we're approving these minutes now, all we have to do is attach them. We say it's amended and attach that letter to them, have it amended rather than stick it in the next set of minutes, which does not reflect the circumstances surrounding her issue. The letter should go into the minutes surrounding her issue. All it has to do is to be amended. We have the signed letter now.
Right. The problem that you have is every time we have a public hearing or we have somebody speak, from the date that that meeting ended till the next meeting, we could be flooded in the future with people trying to submit letters and incorporating that prior minutes meeting.
We make adjustments all the time.
I'm just concerned about in the future, if we start doing this, people are going to start submitting stuff after. I have no problem submitting it and entering it in today's minutes, because that's the day we're discussing it and we're reviewing it. I think it just opens up a Pandora's box. And in regards to the comments on selective enforcement or selective legislation, I've said it 100 times. This legislation applies for the whole town, not for one in particular group or one in particular neighbors that are pissed off at each other.
And you
hold on, I'm done. I'm not done. And I'm sick of hearing about it, about how we're trying to force these two neighbors into some type of chaos. This is a blanket legislation which was to be applied throughout the whole town, the entire town. A fence ordinance, very simple, wouldn't you think? I'm sure most of the towns within the county have such an ordinance. I don't know why we never implemented it. When the codes department brought it to my attention, I took action, worked with the codes, worked with the attorney to put something on the books within the town that could be enforced, so our code enforcement officer could go throughout the town and make sure that we don't have fences that are falling down, we don't have barbed wire fences within the town, residential areas, so we have some uniformity, so we have some, we don't have neighborhoods looking, terrible.
Nobody has any problem with that.
But
All five of us voted for that because it's good for the town.
But you made a comment that it was a selective type legislation. That's not the case, and some people are getting that impression. This legislation had intent just to kind of tighten up the code so that the codes officers could do their job.
And we all voted for that, every single one of us. All I'm saying is that each person has the right to be heard.
I agree 110%.
And in her emotional state, she walked off without giving that letter to us. Later on, she tried to submit it. It ought to be in the minutes in which she spoke.
I make a motion that we approve the town board minutes with the modification that Tracy put on the record just before we just spoke.
Second.
Ms. Tarwacki?
No.
Mr. Ryback?
Abstain?
Mr. Coro?
Yes.
Mr. Dzinski?
Yes.
The second motion I will make is that we accept this letter and we incorporate it into today's minutes.
I would just like to make a little addition to that.
Sure.
That in the future, it should be the responsibility of the individual speaking to submit the letters at the time of the public hearing to be placed in the public record, not afterwards. What Jimmy said is exactly right. Just like being a Monday morning quarterback. I go home, sleep on it for 24 hours, and decide to come back in with another argument.
It's the same argument, it's not different.
It's not the way it should be.
It's the exact same
You have a
letter.
public hearing, you get your voice heard then. That's how it works.
It's the exact same letter as 2 weeks ago.
You have a motion?
That's the motion with the comments the supervisor made.
Second.
Ms. Tarwacki?
I wanted it entered somewhere, so I vote yes.
Mr. Ryback?
Since I, since the meeting, read that letter, yes, I will vote yes for that.
Mr. Coro?
Yes.
Mr. Dzinski?
Yes. Anything else, Jim?